Chris did an inlay where he had a piece of wood on top of the other and he used a coping saw on an angle and you went around and it was really kind of cool and I did that. But this inlay does not go through. It's hard to see. But this wood is cherry, the leaves are maple, and the stem is walnut. And I'll get into why the maple looks like it does. But that's only about 1/8 of an inch deep. My wood is 3/8, so that does not go through. So that's what we did. So what we're gonna do is, I started out by making the leaf on how big I'm gonna have my leaf in my parts. So that's about the size of it, okay? These are two pieces that actually form one leaf. So you make your leaf first. You're gonna take that leaf, you're gonna take your piece of wood, you're gonna lay that down. You can kind of tape it down using two-sided tape. You lay that down, and instead of using a pencil, you're gonna use a very sharp, pointy razor knife. And you're gonna go around and trace that. Now I use tape to hold the parts down, so that's what I did. I used a knife to score coming around, turning around, and I'll give it like a couple passes. So instead of a pencil mark, I now have a scored mark. Key point, very sharp, very pointy. Yes, I have broken off the tips. This was the first one I did. That was my practice piece. So we're gonna go through, but this is what I did. I scored it out with my knife. Now, how I learned how to do this, I went online to a guy by the name of, what's his name? Wood Whisperer. And this is what he did. Now, the one thing he did do, and I'm gonna put this up on the wall behind me. He did one leaf at a time like this. And if you see these lines, that's the grain of the wood. So because you're making the leaf, you want it to look like a leaf, not just a piece of wood in there. So my leaves are in there. He did one piece and then went in there with the router to cut it out. And I did that on the first one. What I found with that is the very corner up in here, the black circle is my router bit. You don't get to that corner very well. So what I did it a second time with two pieces together, and I can get to the corner a little bit easier, and it really worked out a whole lot better because I didn't have that much to do, because you still got to get that material out to get that leaf in there. Everybody follow that? Okay. Now that we got that out of the way. Oh, and I had a paper template, so I kind of drew it all out on how I was going to do that. And then I would actually use the tracing paper, put it on my little parts that I made, and I did write like L and an R for a left and a right on there so that I knew when you drop them on the floor, you can find them, you knew where it went. So I did have a little pattern on how I did that. Now, I made an auxiliary table. Yeah, because when I take my router, and after you set your depth on your router, I do have a bit in here that's only like a 1/8 bit. I can see. So now that I got my router bit set, and the thing is, when you make the pocket, you want to make it a little shallower than the piece. You want your piece to stand up, because then you can always shave it down with a card scraper or sand it, whatever you want to do. So now I'm going to take this, we're going to plug it in. And you're going to rough out the inside of this. This is all clamped down too, so, you know, so now, okay, now I got it roughed out. I got to work to that line where it was scored. I don't know about you guys, but now I can see. Now, this is why I have this auxiliary table, because I did not want to be down here. I'm up here, and I can see just fine going around, getting all the way around. It works out pretty well.
If you breathe real hard, you get rid of the dust too.
You can, you know, and then, you know, you can have a face shield, but I really found that this really worked out when I was hugging the lines, you know.
Do you know what the power is of those magnifiers?
It might be written on here. I'm not sure.
Go accordingly.
Hey, I used to use it for work when I was working on some small stuff.
Don't worry about it.
But now that I got real close to the lines, you know, going in here with the razor knife, you can always kind of trim it down a little bit. You can fine tune it. But one thing I also found too, let's say this outer one is the pocket that I'm making it. And this is the insert. Put a little chamfer on the bottom and the corner so that it fits in there. Because if the inside corner, if you got like a little bump or something in there, your inlay isn't gonna sit in there too well. So by relieving it, it sits in there. Now, these are kind of little, they're tiny. You know, you gotta kind of fit it and you gotta play with it. Now the guy, the wood whisperer guy, he did one at a time. I found and it depends on what you're doing, I found when I did the two of these, it worked out a lot better. But then when you need to, you can pull out the persuader to really get it in there all the way. But you have to be careful with that because you can't break them. This is walnut. I'm sorry, maple. So I do have my pocket in there, okay? So that's what I did with the pocket, and then I just have to kind of try to fit those in there. Now I used the razor knife, and I used a chisel too to help get in there. Now, if you notice, my maple looks a little dark. So I have a little bag of sand here. You take that and you put it on the stove or a hot plate, and you take your little piece of wood and you put it in the sand, and it only takes a few minutes, probably depends on how hot you get this. I happen to lay those flat. You really want to lay it on the edge, and that's what it does to it. If you want, we can pass this little guy around, or you can come up and see it. But I did this on the stove at the house. My wife says, "What are you doing?" She looked at me and I says, "Hey, I'm cooking wood, you know?" And you just lay it in there for like a couple minutes. You can pull it out, be careful because it does get hot. And when you see that it's charred, you know it's done. And just because you sand down the edges a little bit, it actually charred into it. It's not like just the surface. It does penetrate a little bit. so that if you did sand it down, you still have that burnt mark. What that does is it kind of gives it a little character going around. Again, on this one, I laid it flat. It kind of threw things off a little bit. I do have a big chamfer on one side so that when it sits inside the pocket, it sits in there pretty nice. It worked out pretty well. Now, you're gonna put like the two sides together. I did the one and the second one. Now you notice down here how it's curved out. That's okay. When you cut the next set of leaves, you're gonna cut into that inlay you did, glue it in, make sure it sets up before you go cutting in the second one, because you don't want it flying out on you. But that's kind of like what I did. And then for a stem, I did, this is walnut, I did the same thing. I cut that out on a bandsaw, went in there. It is very meticulous, you know, where you're taking your time. That's why when I have this up here, and I do have it clamped down with the router. I use the plunge router. Can you do something different? Yes. The necktie I wore for the Christmas banquet, this is only a 6 1/8 thick. My inlays is 1/16. Somebody asked me, can you use a Dremel? Yes. On my Dremel, I bought this about a year ago from Menards. It was on sale. I couldn't pass it up. It came with some stuff. Now I have a bit in there. You screw that on, and I can still do the same thing. The difference between the two, this is a plunge router. It goes in real nice and easy. You lower it down. This one, your bit sticks up. It's not a plunge. So you have to set your depth, just like you would still do it on here. But I can get like a smaller bit too, if I wanted to, with this. But again, it's still working the same way. When you push it down, you're going around the same way. It worked out kind of nice. This one came with some different attachments. I had the base, which does have like a little bit of an adjustment to it also for your height. This also came with a bit where I can do circles, just like on the routers and stuff. But you have to push it in, so you want to be careful with that.
Which one did you find easier to use as far as visualizing through the?
Either one of them worked out fine for me. This really helped out a lot. I noticed almost everybody's here, well, some of you guys ain't wearing glasses, but that's because you probably got contacts. But
Interacts.
yeah, okay. Either one of them. Now, there's a shield on there. On this side, there isn't. This is the side that I actually looked through. But yeah, you do have a tendency to breathe in some of the dust. It does have a tendency to shoot out, but if you set up a little bit of a vacuum over here somewhere, I'm sure it would work out pretty good. Use a full face shield if you want, or a dust mask with this, but
Does that have lights on it?
no, this one does not.
Yeah.
I just made sure that I was lit up.
But
I
they
do.
You do make ones with lights on the side.
You can put a little headlamp on if you wanted. I've got like a little lamp that I can put on the side, you know, depending on what you want. But once that's clamped down and you went in and you went around, you'll see what you're doing. You're cleaning up the whole bottom, do all the outside, the inside, and then you work the lines and you just kind of go slow. That's what I did.
What speed do you have on your router when you do that?
You know, I'm not good with the speeds and the numbers, it's fast.
Okay.
I think the smaller the bit, the faster you wanna go,
Yeah.
so that's pretty much it.
You wanna get ear protection too.
Yeah, I do. Anytime I'm running,
Them, especially them are screaming.
and especially when you're right here doing that,
That's pretty loud.
it does get loud, so the vacuum is, or the ear protection would be kind of good. And if you had a little vacuum set up on the side. This was my practice piece. This is the first piece that I ever made, and the tie is the second thing. And, I did make a couple other items. I made some keepsake boxes with a number in there, and I think I did one with a cross. And I used this method. I did use my Dremel on a couple of them because it was small, and I didn't want something big and cumbersome. It worked out just nice because you don't go real deep, and that was the kicker. And the other thing was I felt
Did you
was
do the pocket first or the insert?
I made the insert first and made the pocket to the insert.
Oh.
So now you gotta chisel out. But you see what happens when you use that knife? You're scoring everything. So it's giving you that clean edge as you're going around with the knife. Now, again, the Wood Whisperer guy, he did one leaf at a time. I did it with two. I found it was easier when I did it with two because I can get in that corner a lot easier, and I'm not digging that out with a chisel. The less you did with a chisel, the more chances you're gonna take to ruin it to make the pocket a little bit bigger. Yeah, glue is gonna fill it in, but that's another reason why I made on my one, I put a little chamfer on that back edge, so when it's sat in, it fills in with glue. It's gonna hold it in, and nobody sees that anyway. But again, the grain you want, depending on, how you have that grain, and it looks like a leaf. And this is my thing for show and tell. So I'm off the hook for today. I gotta fill out a
Is that
tag.
the table or
Both. But yeah, and this was just like some wood because like I said, I did not want to have to do this and be, stuck on, with a bad back. By doing it up here like this, I can just bend the knees a little bit and come down. I went right around. It worked out pretty nice. I don't know what else you could do with, doing some designs like that.
I got a thing. I would make my first cut about a 30-second bigger than the actual piece.
Okay.
Then I would either color glue or Bondo, color it, put it in, and then you stick the pieces in, hold them for 13 seconds and you're done. Sand it off and you've got a line going around everything.
Okay, so it gives it a border
Yeah,
because you made it bigger than the part that you're
right,
putting in.
right.
I never heard of that, but yeah. But
Neither
yeah,
has anybody else.
hey, but it's something different, like you
I've done
said,
it before.
colored Bondo that you
Bondo
did.
master, he knows what Bondo can do.
Preferably
He's a
black
painter,
Bondo.
Not a body man, But the thing with the sand that I used was just regular play sand from a sandbox. That's what I used to kind of color the edges.
If you use the colored stuff, then your edges are colored.
Yeah, and it gives it a little contour. It
Gives
gives
you
you
an outline of everything.
something a little different. That's not a bad idea, But you made it a little bit bigger, and you don't have to be so precise with
No.
trying to get around them because
Saves you
it's
some
cut pretty nice.
Yeah, it's a
You know,
nice job.
yeah.
But making it easier.
Yeah, see, this one was my practice piece. That's the first one I did. So,
So as you get to the line, did you have problems with the grain pulling up?
No, I did not, because, you know, it cut around pretty nice when I did it. You relieved it. I didn't get real close to the edge. I just kind of got somewhat close, roughed it all out, got all the sand, sawdust out of there, and then I went back in there again, very slowly, just kind of, you know, moving it around. But yeah, the knife, sometimes you'll get like a little sliver because you're coming real close from where you cut it with the knife, and it's like, okay, I'm pretty good, you know, and just kind of cleaned it up a little bit, and that's what I did. It's a little time consuming, but I had a lot of fun doing it, and I was down in the basement for hours, and it wasn't picking on the wife, so that kind of made her happy, you know. Any other questions on this?
What kind of router bits were you using?
On this was just a regular 1/8 router bit.
Just like a straight cut?
It was a straight cut. The one on my Dremel is actually what they call an end mill from machining, because I used to be a tool and die maker. So sometimes some little tool bits came home with me. But yeah, the one on my router is actually an end mill. I can leave it up here so you can see, just, you know, but that's what I did with that.
Any particular glue?
Tybon 2 is what I was using. I put that a little bit in there. It holds it in place. And again, you know, if it's close, you know, use a persuader. But keep in mind, if you force it in, you might not get it out. Because you want to, if you get a nice fit, that glue has a tendency to help fill it out. Okay? Good?
Good.
Oh, that's not me. Okay, I do have one more thing. Yeah, and again, the tie, when I did the tie, I did use my Dremel for that, because it was smaller. Yeah, it's tedious, but it kind of worked out pretty good. Any questions on this? Yes, sir.
A suggestion, Dremel does make a plunge attachment for the Dremel. If your pockets are deep enough, you can find them.
I never knew that. You know, the part that I had just on there, it has an adjustment for the depth, but it's not a plunge one.
Yeah.
So that's the drawback of the plunge router. And I got one more thing to do. Somebody asked about flocking. So, the inside of a jewelry box, I put some flocking in there, that's the flocking. What you do is, this is the glue. This is navy, well, they call it, navy blue. The adhesive is also navy blue. So the glue, and I just use an acid tip brush, I would put it inside my box and just paint the whole inside, and you kind of.
Is that oil based or water based?
It's oil based.
Oil based.
Thank you. I figured he would know, okay? When you get this, the glue should be matching the color, but they just came out with a clear one, and I don't know how well that would look. For the most part, I only done 2 colors with this. I did the blue, and I did a like a red, not the bright red, but more like a mahogany. No,
Like a
burgundy. Thank you, burgundy. And I had the color glue to go with the flocking. This is where it gets interesting on how you apply this. So I've got holes in one end. you take your stuff, you pour it in the tube. You kind of put that on. After you get your part, your little jewelry box or whatever, glued up, painted up with the glue, you want to be in an area where, now I set up a cardboard wall on a piece of paper because you're going to sit there and go like that. And it just poof, poof, it poofs it out. So somebody had a question about it, I think that was you, about flocking. It's really simple, but it has a tendency to go poof all over the place. If you read the instructions, they will recommend one of these per color. Don't mix and match. I've mixed and matched. I just clean it out, I just wipe it out with a towel. If I could use my shop vac, suck it out a little bit, and I put the next one in. I never had any problems, okay? But Rockler sells this, and so does Woodcraft. The glue's expensive. It's like $25 for this can. The flocking, I think, is a lot cheaper, and this is only a few bucks. But that's the best way to doing it. But again, when I do it, I set up a little cardboard as like a wall on a paper, and you just shove it in there like that. It's gonna poof out, leave it set. And it doesn't matter if you got like a big clump of it in there, leave it alone. You come back the next day, you bounce it on the board, all the stuff that didn't adhere to the sides falls out. I put it on the paper and I pour it back in the bag. It's reusable. So you don't have to worry about wasting a ton of this stuff.
What's the drying time on the glue, overnight?
Yeah, overnight.
Okay,
Yeah.
you could substitute the glue with the varnish.
I guess you could. I never did. I just followed the instructions on this.
What's the working time on the glue?
Not real long, like 10, 15, 20 minutes maybe, 20 minutes tops.
So when you have your flocking ready to go.
You do,
When you
you
put
do.
the glue down.
Well, yeah, I get in there, like I said, with an acid tip brush, and I'm being very
But
generous.
you already have your glue, your flocking material. in
I'm
it.
ready to go on that. I go ahead and 10 minutes is still a long time, where if you needed to fill the can up a little more, you still have time. I mean, it's not, nobody's gonna be over there with a timer.
Yeah, so like if you're flocking the inside of a van, you wanna do like a section at a time.
Yeah,
Alright.
Yeah,
I'm curious.
yeah.
To get it, yeah.
Yeah.
Is there, do you see like an overlap going through?
yeah. If you're flocking a van, yeah.
It's the problem with the overlap, though.
Is it?
If you're doing a van, you wanna do a panel
Yeah.
at a time, so
Right,
you wouldn't have a seam between the two.
Yeah.
I mean,
Unless you want them.
the demonstration I saw was for
You
a
make them,
poker table, which was fairly large.
Yes.
And what they used was a roller, and they rolled the paint on.
Okay.
Basically, that's a very thick oil paint.
Yeah.
So they roll the paint on there, and you want to put it on heavy. too.
Yeah.
Don't skip on the paint. And then they had you can also get one of these that hooks to your air compressor, like a paint gun. And you blow the flocking right onto it, and everywhere else too. So, if you're gonna do a big surface, your van, that's how you do it, yeah.
Yeah, make it easier. When you do this, they do recommend that you put like varnish or shellac or something, give it a coat first. They're saying so that the wood doesn't absorb all the adhesive. So if you have a little bit of a sealer on first, then glue it, and then flock it. Did that work for you?
Works for me.
I understand that you requested this.
Well, yeah, I thought it would be a good, a good, you know.
I wasn't about to show this because it poofs all over. It does get a little bit messy.
Yeah, so you
So-
wanna turn your fan off then, probably.
Probably, okay, that's why I had like this cardboard going around to make like this little dust-proof spray booth, you know, paint booth.
Wear a mask when you do it too. That stuff is nasty.
Yeah, what he said, you know, okay?
Yeah, great.
I do have a little piece of paper up here, if you want, I'll leave this up here so that you can see, it's got like a bunch of different colors. When I went to Rockler's the one time, not the Orland store,
Anymore.
yeah, I wanted the burgundy and I couldn't get the right adhesive. I can get the flocking, but not the adhesive. And the gentleman over there says, why don't you try Woodcraft? And I was a little surprised that he referred me to their competition, but I did. I actually did go over to Woodcraft and I picked up the flocking and the adhesive over there because they had it. He kind of told me that they were discontinuing this, but I don't know that for sure. But yeah, that's, you know, and I'll leave this out if you want, so you can take a look at it. But even the literature, that's like all right here. And
What is the durability of the flock?
I honestly, I
It's
don't
good.
know.
It's
really
good, huh?
good, yeah.
So you're using it to put things on there? Or is it just decoration?
I've
No,
used it for a jewelry box and a keepsake
Yeah.
box.
Yeah,
And my granddaughter, the jewelry box I made for her, she's got it loaded. I made a heart-shaped one with the burgundy in there, for another granddaughter, and they've got all kinds of stuff in it, so I'm kind of curiosity myself how long it lasts. But,
Another way to do it is you buy the sheet goods, they have a peel and stick, and then it's just like hanging paper. And it can come out really nice.
Yeah.
For a quarter of the price.
yeah.
And you can get colors,
For the flocking?
yeah.
Yeah, on the paper, they list all kinds of different colors that they have. For some reason, I think the black is the cheapest.
Yeah.
Who figure, you know, but they do have different colors, you know. I suppose if you went online, you can get a better perspective of the color itself, but I have a list up here. I'll leave it up here if you guys wanna take a look at it. You can, more than welcome to take a look at what I have up there. Okay?
very good.
That's it. Hey.
I'm seeing